Welcome to the Vault. XL, thank you for joining me this late evening. Approaching a new week. Hope you all are well. Please check my community board for updates to breaking news, older stories, polls. I have some polls up pertaining to Chris Watts. Please take those said polls. Many of you probably watched the content that aired years ago pertaining to Chris Watts and his family on Netflix, and many other networks have done documentaries. Well, now a lady has written a book pertaining to her conversations with him, letters that were written by Mr. Watts. And we're going to dissect that during this live stream, and also talk about the women who are writing him in prison. Why would someone write a killer who has murdered their family for no reason? Why would you be writing to him? I read a few of the letters earlier tonight before going live, and everything's, jokey in the conversations. And it's just like they're oblivious to what he has done. He didn't have an altercation with someone and then shot him or beat him to death. He killed people, children, unborn child, and the mother and wife. So the question I pose for you during this live stream is this: did he do it for love of the other woman, or he's innately evil, born evil, would have committed a crime such as murder had he not met her? Because what I have to ask myself is the obvious. If it wasn't that woman, it possibly would have been another woman, would have still been the same result. Some may believe it was because of this woman. You're going to hear different opinions during this live stream from this audio. And then you have to ask the ultimate question. Let's say he was able to get away with the murders and got with that young lady, continue to date her, marry her. She would naturally have expectations of Mr. Watts, and he would have expectations of her. If he has mental issues, he's a people pleaser, as you'll hear. This lady mentioned that's how he felt towards his wife. He always felt like he would do something wrong. Naturally, he wouldn't have changed with meeting her and then marrying her. Let's just say if he was able to. Why would you think he would not do it to her? That he would become disgusted, something doesn't go right in the marriage, and he would think of offing her. How would it be different? And that's why I always tell people to think about that when you hear the motive allegedly is another person. If they would do it once, become disgusted in life to murder their wife, their husband, children, why would they not do it again? Because naturally, as time goes by, personalities wear on the other one. What you thought was funny and cute, amusing, it's not anymore. We're not laughing at your jokes anymore. You don't seem attracted to me anymore. Maybe we're not having relations anymore. You'll be right back where you were as you stood in those same shoes with the first wife. That's my question. Please take the polls on my community board. Hello, Don. Thank you for joining me. Let's hear what the doctor has to say with his guest, the lady who wrote the book, Ms. Cagle. Thank you for joining me.
Sherilyn Cato joins us now. She's the author of the new book, Letters from Christopher, The Tragic Confessions of the Watts Family Murders. Sherilyn, you've never written a book before. You've never even reached out to a prisoner. Why Chris Watts?
I don't know, just seeing him the morning of, on the front porch when he was looking for his family and telling the TV cameras that they just vanished. I knew by watching him he was guilty. It was easy to see that he was. And I felt something. I felt called to write this story to help get in his mind enough to see why he would do something like that.
She saw that he was guilty from the first time, seeing him on the porch. Did you think the same when you first saw interviews of Mr. Watts talking to the public about the disappearance of his wife and children, did you think that he was guilty, or did you think he was innocent? He was telling the truth that they were missing.
To his family.
In order to write the story, you have to get in touch with him. You have
Hello,
to
Sammy.
gain his confidence. We're going to talk about a lot of these letters in a second, and I've read through them, and there are specific questions I have. But there are some horrific things that he admitted to you in conversations and in the letters. One of the things that struck me powerfully, as a father and his grandfather, is he joined AA.
Sorry about that intermission. Someone has just commented below the video. I'm going to read their comment right fast. Hold on one second. I don't know why people write off the mistress. She definitely had something to do with the deaths of his family. She was, hold on one second. She was there and helped him. Do some of you believe this woman was involved? 2 days ago, Chris Watts was not in love. He was in lust. He didn't know the difference. Very interesting. I will never believe Nicole didn't know or wasn't involved. I still think it's crazy she was never investigated further.
What did he mean by that?
Well, the morning of, he went into
go back a little
when
bit.
he was looking for his family and telling the TV cameras that they just vanished. I knew by watching him he was guilty. It was easy to see that he was. And I felt something. I felt called to write this story to help get in his mind enough to see why he would do something like that to his family.
In order to write the story, you have to get in touch with him. You have to gain his confidence. We're going to talk about a lot of these letters in a second, but I've read through them, and there are specific questions I have. But there are some horrific things that he admitted to you in conversations and in the letters. One of the things that struck me powerfully, as a father and his grandfather, is he admitted that he actually killed his daughters not once but twice. What did he mean by that?
Well, the morning of, he went into his baby girls' rooms and took a pillow from their bed and smothered them. And then he went into his room with Shanann and lay down next to her. They argued a little, and he murdered her. So then he was wrapping her in the sheets.
So you hear new information that he murdered them 2 times, to baby girls, which I don't know how you can murder somebody 2 times. You mean he went back to make sure that they were dead? Well, all he had to do was check their pulse. He didn't have to go back and do anything extra, but it's neither here nor there now. When he went into the room, if we're to believe this version from Chris, because you know that when people are mass murderers, killers, they lie. So did he initiate an argument so he could build up the courage to kill the wife, because he had to know he'd have to give her, there would be a fight, a struggle naturally by this woman. The children, they didn't stand a chance. So after killing the children, allegedly, 1 time, he went to lie down by the wife. Who initiated an argument? What is the sequence? Because I don't know how this is going, the sequence here. Was he already in the room with his wife arguing, then went to kill the kids, then double back? What is the sequence? I always tell myself, don't even ask the questions, because in the end it won't matter, because you don't even know what version you're going to get. And will it matter? Will it even matter?
Her in the sheets, and both girls got up and saw him and started questioning what's wrong with mommy, what happened to mommy. Bella, the oldest one, was crying. She had obviously been traumatized. She had bruises above her eyes, and you could tell she had been traumatized. And also, Cece was more kind of confused, but she was awake, the younger one. So they ran around the house, literally, and cried and was watching what was going on as he dragged Shanann down the stairs. He couldn't pick her up, or he tried to pick her up, but she was too heavy for him. They were in a 2-story home, so he drug her down the stairs.
My goodness.
Put her in the back of his pickup truck, and then proceeded to put each of the girls in the back seat with their little feet dangling over the seat on top of their mommy. And they rode an hour like that to the oil fields.
He drove them to their burial ground.
Yes. So
they trusted their father.
Oh, of course they did. They loved him. Bella's seen on cameras singing the song, "Daddy, You're My Hero." He was the one that was entrusted to take care of them. So
Chris told Sherilyn that his daughter Bella was the only one who put up a fight, saying, I'm quoting this, "I will hear her soft little voice for the rest of my life." She was saying, "Daddy, no. Daddy, no." I mean, you're a mom, a grandma. How hard is it to hear that even now?
It's very hard. I have a 3-year-old granddaughter myself, and I can't even imagine her skinning her knee. It hurts me. It's been difficult, at best. It's been very difficult.
He said lots of things to you, and I want to get into his mind, which is why I wanted to have you on.
Yes.
One issue is, how aware is he of what he did and currently doing? He apparently made overtures to his ability to take care, for example, of that 3-year-old granddaughter. Is that true?
Yes. He asked me if I was out of prison now, would you allow me to watch your grandchild? And he, by saying that, was trying to say he, has remorse enough that he would never hurt anyone again. So, and it's easy for me to say, absolutely not. I would never leave my grandchild. And Christopher, what are you thinking by asking that question?
What does it say about him that he even asked the question?
Did she say that to him, though, directly? Chris, you know good and well I will not leave my children, grandchildren in your care. Did she say it to him, or she's just saying it here on the show with Dr. Oz? Just curious.
Does he think he's trustworthy?
I think he does. He's narcissistic. Very much everything is about him. Through a lot of the confessions that he made to me, a lot of it has been about how badly he hurts and how badly it is for him, which seems very narcissistic to me.
Why does he say he did it? This is a man, I've been searching for clues that he could have even done this. I can't find any reason why any of us sitting here right now would have suspected he could possibly even do it.
Right. He was very much
the typical grocery store.
Well, doctor, people kill people every day, and there's always going to be somebody that's going to uphold them, even if the evidence is overwhelming. You see it every day because his mother upheld him. She's a very sick, dirty bird, and he carries her traits and characteristics. That's why he is who he is, because if you listen to the jailhouse tapes of her talking to him, she shows really no remorse for anything that happened. She's praising him and told him, I do not care what you did. So his ways came from her. He may not have been a very overt person. He may not have lashed out and popped off, but whatever anger, bitterness he felt in the world, about the world, people, he held it in. And those are the most dangerous people, the ones who don't show any anger. They don't pop off. They don't lash out. They don't curse. They don't holler. They don't stomp. Those are the ones you should be very weary of. I do believe is Mr. Watts. He carries his mother's characteristics most definitely. She's a psychopath herself.
Seemingly family man, good dad. Spent a lot of time with the girls, helped his wife around the house, helped her while she did her sales and that type of thing. So, asking him, why wouldn't you just get a divorce? Because millions of people get divorces, so why wouldn't you just walk away if you had to be away from Shanann? Because he says the reason is, he'll go back and forth with blaming different things. The mistress, the fact that he didn't pray for 3 months before this happened, that there's a darkness that was over him. He's even went as far as saying a demon was in him, which maybe that's true. If you can do something like that, it does seem a little evil, very evil, actually.
Yeah. Although evil is clearly this is a definition of it, but I'm curious. I mean, does he blame his mistress, for example? They say it was her. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have murdered my wife, unborn child, two beautiful daughters. Well, how does he excuse this in his mind?
I don't know, because that is exactly what he has said. If I had never met Nikki, I would this would never have happened, he says.
Do you all agree with that statement? Do you believe he believes that? Because as I just said before, opening into this live stream, if you are already demented inside, tortured inside, I don't think it would have mattered who you met and who you married, because you aren't the same person. You're the one feeling whatever you're feeling towards this person, and then feeling what you feel toward the mistress. So the mistress could be anybody. The wife could have been anybody. That's just how I feel. And as she said, he did a song and dance about his reasonings for killing the children, the wife. I hadn't prayed. Well, what does praying have to do with you killing? Oh, you're saying what? Well, I ain't been praying. I haven't been doing what I'm supposed to do. That's why I killed her. Come on now. You're still the captain of your own ship. See, I believe there's something wrong with him. There was something always wrong with Chris Watts. People probably did not see the signs. I think the Netflix documentary told it best. When you look at her text messages to him leading up to the murders, he never was vulgar, popped off. He was very mild-mannered. And you learn now, or beforehand, he had been thinking about it for months. So then you have to ask yourself, well, if he had been thinking about it for months, is this around the time he had been dating this girl or met this girl? What was he thinking before he met the girl, the lady? There was something already dark inside of Chris Watts. You just don't wake up and kill somebody because you met somebody. They looked at you, you looked at them. Okay, let's go on a date. And then it went from there. Sexual relations. Now I'm going to kill my kids, kill my wife. Because people have affairs every day, just like, yes, they get divorced every day. Why would you kill your spouse and your children? Now, we have the situations where they kill the spouse, but keep the children. You've seen that scenario. So this is why I'm trying to tell you, he wanted out completely. If the wife was the problem, why did you kill the children? Any answers? Anybody in the chat can answer that? Why did you kill all of them? Because he wanted out completely. Allegedly, they were in debt. They owe fees, homeowner association fees. Right under $100,000, if I'm not mistaken. He wanted out completely. No divvying up nothing, no child support, no alimony, no nothing. I'm done. He's possibly been done. And you're going to hear that near the end of this commentary. When they go back in time, when he was a chubbier Chris Watts and was doing those relationship courses, he'll tell you about bailing out of a relationship.
Have happened, he says, which makes absolutely no sense to anyone at all. But he's very, Christopher he's not outgoing at all. He's very closed off. I never saw emotions from him. I didn't see him laugh. I didn't see him cry. I didn't see him excited. He's very quiet. So, he's been harder to read than some people because you get nothing. It's just like a blank.
Well, as I go through these letters, he's saying things to me in his writing, which I want to come to when we come back, because we'll discuss the claims of demon possession. And we're also going to talk about the rumors of a gay affair, which have been raised. Sharon?
All right. Is he gay? Was he gay? He's also received letters inside of prison from men and women. Why would men be writing Chris Watts? Ask yourself that question. I've already asked you, why would a woman be writing him knowing he's murdered his family, slaughtered his family? But why would a man be writing another man in prison, a complete stranger who's butchered his entire family? Come on, you guys. Was he gay, bisexual? Has he been longing to get out of this life with these people, this family? I'm not cut out for this. It's not working out. But he played the good guy, which many people do this. They don't rock the boat. I believe that was Chris Watts. He didn't like to rock the boat. He didn't like controversy. As you hear this lady say, no emotion, no laughing, no crying, no smiling, no nothing. That's why I said 9 times out of 10, he's already felt these crazy ways.
We'll be right back.
Already something wrong with him. No infatuation, obsession to lead him down the road of murdering his family. He was already tainted. Because that's a deep thing to say about a person. No laughing, no smiling, just empty inside. Because that's how he was when he was married. And I think the wife realized that. And when you go back and watch that Netflix documentary, you can see her text messages. His response told it all.
Convicted murderer Chris Watts writes, August 12th, when I finished putting the girls to bed, I walked away and said, that's the last time I'm going to be tucking my babies in. I knew what was going to happen the day before, and I did nothing to stop it. I couldn't stop myself from what I knew would occur the next morning. I am so thankful the Lord has delivered me from whatever evil was tormenting me and my family. I just wish they were still here. We're back with exclusive new details on the shocking case of...
Do you believe those words? He wished they were here. He wished they were back. Hello, Star. He's been redeemed by the Lord. Do you believe that? That he is what some might say a born-again Christian. Found Jesus, which is soever. Do you believe he is now a godly man? Hell, should he be free? Killed too many people, can't let him go. No way in hell. Everybody finds Jesus once they go to prison. Have you noticed that? But nobody was thinking about Jesus, Allah, when they were free. Why is that? You've had ample enough time to meet Jesus while you're walking the earth doing nefarious deeds, but you don't care about Jesus or God until you're incarcerated, and then all of a sudden you have found Jesus. You found God. Don't you find that interesting? Everybody's been redeemed. But see, you don't know that's the truth. Because it's no different than hearing somebody say, I'm changed. I'm not the same person I was before I came in here. Well, the true test is being out here on the street dealing with people. That is the true test. That is the only test. Freedom. Freedom will determine if you can hang or not. You can maneuver, get along with people, make sound decisions, be rational. Being in prison, it doesn't count. You're boarded up. Say anything in there. I'm changed. God has healed me. Yeah. Let you back out, then we'd see how much you have changed. Stay woke, everybody.
Back with exclusive new details on the shocking case of Chris Watts, the Colorado father, currently serving 5 life sentences for brutally killing his wife, unborn child, and 2 daughters. Over the past 6 months, he's opened up to a woman named Sherilyn Cato about why he committed this horrific crime. Sherilyn's documented her letters, phone calls, and prison visits with Chris in a new book called Letters from Christopher, and she's joining us today. Chris told you that he may have been possessed by demons before these brutal and very betraying murders.
Yes.
How did that take place in his mind? How does he describe that?
Well, he says because he doesn't feel like it was really him that committed these murders. That he knew ahead of time that he was going to do it, but he couldn't do anything to stop it. He felt a darkness over him. And in fact, when he killed his family, he said, especially Shanann, when he put his hands on her neck, he couldn't let go. It was like a force holding him with his hands on her neck. And looking at it thinking he should pull his hands off but couldn't.
Did he share that he could have gone on and killed others, that killing didn't really matter to him?
He said at that time, during that time, and all the way through up until after he left the oil field, that he could have killed anything that came in his path and felt justified doing it.
Wow.
Felt justified.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to read. This is page 10 of one of the letters. And there's, it actually has neat handwriting. I don't know what that says about somebody, but so he signs it up in Christ, signs his name. Then he has scripture. He quotes, Timothy, Peter. I mean, he's talking about, to you anyway, the way a spiritual person might talk. He says, God bless you.
Hey,
God bless you. He's been rediscovered. I don't know how to word it. Do you believe his newfound faith in God? Well, this is just an act. Somebody who is talking out the side of his neck, not even really delusional. He knows exactly what he's doing, what he's saying. He was feeding her a bunch of junk and garbage, because you really would never know anybody who has murdered that many people. Come on, let's be truthful. One person's enough, but several people in your family, why would I believe anything he has to say about the girlfriend, her? I'll give you just enough tea, send you on your way. Narcissist indeed. He talks more about himself. He doesn't miss those people. He doesn't want those people back. He just wanted to get on with that lady. And he had to have known that he would have gotten caught, because people have cameras, doorbell cameras, and that's one of the things that got him caught anyway. The neighbor's camera showing him backing the truck up to the house, and the wife coming in late that morning from her trip, and she never came out, walked out, hopped out. She never came back out. So how did she leave? And he knew he was caught. That's why he confessed to his father in that interrogation room that he had killed them. This is a very sick story.
He says, God bless you at the end. And I'm still trying to put my head around. It seems like an apparently normal person, a man, committed the worst of all possible crimes. You can begin to appreciate why churches, the Catholic Church in particular, might believe in demon possession. Mm-hmm. Because it seems like something happened to him.
Yes, it does. I mean, I have no idea about demon possession. I'm not sure that darkness wasn't always in him.
Exactly.
Even though he never showed signs of it that we could tell.
Right, that we know.
Did you ever ask him if he tortured animals or did other things that, say, sociopaths, mass murderers, serial murderers?
Mm-hmm. I did, and he says no, that he had never done anything at all like that. But it was kind of interesting, too. Their dog, Dieter, didn't like him. Like, did the dog sense something, or was it because of the way he treated the dog? I don't know. Very different.
Exactly. Did he treat the dog well? Was he a dog lover? Did he ever grow up with dogs? Because all that would be interesting to know. Or did the dog sense something was wrong with Chris? Dogs are very smart animals. Animals are smart in general. That's why they're able to survive out in the wild animals, because they grow into their being, their habitat. So did the dog sense that there's something wrong with this two-legged creature? He's off, and I don't know how to warn this lady and her kids. You are sleeping with the enemy. Very interesting.
I don't know. Very different.
Maybe both. In one letter to Cheryl and Chris wrote, the darkness inside of me had won. It was still in me, though. I felt like I could kill anything and be justified for doing it.
Wow.
You mentioned that he had that sentiment. Did you feel unsafe in his presence?
Well, I didn't, because there was always at least 3 guards close by. He was sat in a seat across a little table from me, and he was not allowed to move as far as get up or anything. He had to stay in that chair. And if he hadn't, they'd have been on him.
So after this horrific crime made headlines, a man came forward claiming he also had an affair with Chris Watts.
Yes.
This, for a lot of people, muddied the waters quite a bit. Did Chris have any thoughts on this? Did he admit it? Did he deny it?
Well, what's interesting is he didn't even know that he was accused of that until after he had already been sentenced and was in prison. He said he has no idea who the person is, and there was absolutely never a thought of him being gay or being in a gay relationship. So he kind of brushed it off because he said he doesn't know anything about it.
Did you believe him?
I think I did. Yeah, I think I did.
Did you become proficient in your mind, telling when he was lying and not?
I think so.
Well, do you all believe it? Do you believe this man's allegation? Is that the reason why other men started writing him? Well, this guy's coming out. There must be some truth to it. Of course, we have all type of crackpots out here. Straight, bisexual, gay, looking for their 5 minutes of fame. And it's sad to think a person would go forward and lie about having an affair with a man. You would assume the person is gay. But what if he wasn't telling the truth? Why would you lie on yourself? Guess you wouldn't care about lying on him because he's a convicted murderer. Hell, I'll get me 5 minutes of fame and I'll tell people I mess with him, blah, blah, blah. So who was this man and where did he come from? Was he living out there where they were living or somewhere else? Where was he from? Could he bring a receipt to show that they crossed paths, phone numbers, conversations, text messages, video chats? What? Or absolutely nothing. Just another demon seed running around wanting attention. Sociopath.
I'm not a doctor, so I can't diagnose him with, that, but I could kind of tell when he was telling the truth, and I'm not kidding, his eyes would go dark when he would talk about the murders. And just dark. And it was very strange to me.
Interesting.
And I asked him if anyone else had ever told him that since the murders, and he had been told that his eyes would go dark when he would talk about it.
Shanae's family has some...
His eyes would go dark. Explain that to us. We weren't there, so we don't know. Dark like what? Pupils dilated? Didn't blink? Blink too much? Shook? Did he shake? Hell, damn near foam at the mouth? Explain it to me. I'm curious. Because maybe this is who he is and that this is who he has always been. When there was no Shanann, there were no children, there was no Nikki, there was nobody but darkness and Chris Watts. And I think he's 9 times out of 10 had a lot of evil thoughts during life. He never acted on them. The fact that he admits that he could have killed anybody or anything after murdering his family should tell you something. Most people would have be expecting him to say, well, I felt relieved once I killed him. I felt relieved. I've gotten rid of what I wanted to get rid of. I feel better. I don't hear that here. I hear I still could have murdered some other people, other things. I guess creatures, animals. So that leads me to believe he was always dark. Nobody knew it. Nobody saw the signs. And if they did, they didn't dwell on it. Didn't bring it to his attention. But I got a funky feeling if the dead could talk, we'd probably hear a whole different version from the wife. That maybe she saw some signs in him that something was a little off. Maybe not demonified, violent. But maybe the two quiet gentlemen spooked her. Because let me tell you something. One person could say, oh, he was hollering and screaming and scared me and he was raging and da-da-da-da-da, and he had this crazy look on his face and I became scared. You could also feel that way from somebody who doesn't rage and holler and scream and curse. They could look like how he was looking while he was talking about those murders. Dark, stoic, stir a hole straight through you. And I think some of us have been around people who were dead silent, quiet, and the first thing you were thinking, what is he thinking? What is she thinking? I don't know if I trust being alone with this person.
I have some very serious concerns with Sherilyn's book. Coming up, we're going to hear how they feel about these horrific new details from Chris Watts' crimes being made public.
I believe there's some difference of opinions pertaining to her family. They may feel like they were deceived by this lady in writing this book. Her revealing that he killed the kids twice may come across as disrespectful to their daughter and the children. Do you believe she should have put that in the book, what he said? Did she put everything in the book that he said to her in confidence? Do you even think he cares about this book, what he wrote to her in letters? Because I feel like you're really talking to yourself, trying to talk to somebody like this and get a clear understanding of where they are, where they were, because you don't even know what's the truth. Now, she tells Dr. Oz, yeah, there were times when I could tell he's telling the truth, not telling the truth. He looked dark when he was telling the truth. But like I said, doesn't matter now.
Chris Watts murdered his pregnant wife Shanann and their two young daughters, Stella and Cece. He pled guilty to multiple counts of first-degree murder and was sentenced to 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole. From prison, he began writing to author Sherilyn Cato. In an excerpt from one letter, Chris admits, "I can say with a certainty that I always loved Shanann and always will, but there was always this lingering fear that I would do something wrong." Those were the chilling words of convicted killer Chris Watts.
I always felt like I would do something wrong. I find this very important, these words from Chris. He had a fear of disappointing her. Was she highly critical, his wife? Highly critical? Had high expectations of him? He didn't feel like he was evenly matched with her? Is this how he felt when they were together? Was she dissatisfied with him? Did she tell him often she was dissatisfied? She wanted more out of life, wanted more money, wanted more things, wanted more. But is this a reason to murder somebody? No, it's not. You found a new way of thinking, living, looking, smaller physique. It's no reason to murder somebody. Somebody looked at you a certain way, flirted with you, told you look nice. There's no reason to kill your wife and kids. There's no reason to kill these people. There was no reason to kill them because people lose weight every day. People become disinterested in people every day. People flirt with people. So somebody flirts with you, you go have an affair. You lose weight, somebody flirts with you, you go have an affair. Come on now. As somebody said in the comment section below this video, lust was never love. It was lust. He did not know the difference. Do you believe that? He was in lust with Nikki. We'll put that on my community page after this audio plays.
Those were the chilling words of convicted killer Chris Watts. That's from just one of the many letters he wrote to Sherilyn Cato, who joins us exclusively today. So Sherilyn, I'm going to broach a sensitive topic.
Okay.
We reached out to Shanann's family for a response to the publication of Sherilyn's book, and they told us they had been led to believe the focus of the book will be about Christopher's journey to find redemption through Christ while in prison for his crimes. I'm quoting them. They now feel deceived that it's being marketed as a true crime story, and they say they're devastated. They went on to say Mr. Watts' crimes have been a tragic loss not only for them, but to those who knew and deeply loved their daughter and grandchildren. Ms. Cato took advantage of Mr. Watts and willfully deceived the family in mourning over a very recent and tragic loss. You can read the Shanann family full statement on droz.com.
This is very interesting here, what they're saying about Chris. They're saying they thought this book was going to be about him redeeming himself through Christ. She took advantage of him. Now, that's a bit much. She took advantage of him. Well, he's the one that's killed some people. And I don't think he feels anything, as I've already said. See, everybody's getting delusional here, or delusional about what's really going on. This man murdered children and a woman and an unborn child. It would not matter if somebody came along to try to take advantage of him, if that is your opinion, family, because he's the murderer, he's the demon. And I don't think there's nothing you could do to pull wool over Chris' eyes, because he's done the worst that a man or woman could do, and that is murder. So what could somebody come along and do to Chris Watts at this point that would be deceptive? I don't think he's stupid enough to think these women out here are in love with him. A man's out here in love with him. And you all could not have been foolish enough to think he is redeemed. Now, someone may say I'm being judgmental. I don't think many people would believe he's redeemed, because we hear this all the time from people incarcerated, even when it's not even murder. Could be theft, could be selling drugs, could be assault, array of crimes that people are incarcerated over. And so many of them say the same thing. Oh, I found Jesus. I found Allah. I'm Muslim. I'm this. And as soon as they hit the street, they're back to doing what they were doing before they were arrested. Because old habits die hard. Back assaulting, drinking, getting high, selling drugs, beating up people, sadism, rape, sexual assault, so on and so forth. Because that's who you've become. And you've chosen not to try to change. So I don't see anybody pulling any wool over Mr. Watts' eyes. You may not like the content. You thought it was going to be about him redeeming himself, but instead it's a little bit of both. He's talking about God, and he's also talking about the crimes. You're going to further hear her conversations with these people. Do you believe she took advantage of Mr. Watts? And do you believe she intentionally misled the family?
You can read the Shanann family full statement on DrOz.com. So let me just ask you directly so you have a chance to defend yourself. Mm-hmm. Did you misrepresent the intentions of your book?
Absolutely not. When I first started writing the book, the word had gotten to Shanann's parents that I was writing a book. Their attorney called me, and I told them then we made a deal with each other. And the deal was, because they wanted to know if I was going to share the money with the Ruzeks.
Sorry about that. Shared the money. So see, they wanted to see where her heart was at the time. Was she writing this book for self, to keep the royalties, monies from the book for herself, or to give it to charity and or the family members, so on and so forth? Well, some people say, well, she's writing a book about him, what he has to say. Why should she share the money with anybody? Some of you made a difference in opinion. I don't really have anything to say about that. I'm just throwing it out there. Should she be sharing the money with anybody in the family? Because people write books all the time about true crime. People who are involved with the people write books. They keep the money, even when it's not murder. People write books about their relationships, what happened to their life, here, there, over there, who they talk to, and they don't share the money with anybody. So what is your opinion pertaining to monies from the book, where it should have gone?
Share the money with the Ruzeks. And I said, well, I made a deal with Christopher that there would be no money exchange between us. He can't have money anyway.
Right.
And in exchange for that, I would write the story of his forgiveness and redemption in at least one chapter of the book. And I told him I could not be held to any specific thing. I said the book will be about, there will be his confession will be in there. And at that time, it was the beginning of the book. So I didn't know what all I was in for yet. I had not even received the letter yet, talking about killing the girls twice. And so Christopher was never deceived. As you can see, he wrote all the letters, many, many letters to me. But I was also told by my attorney not to reach out to them. I wanted to tell them what he had told me, the more recent information about killing the girls twice. And my attorneys advised me just to leave it alone.
Well, you're obviously not a bright bulb, because your lawyer advised you not to do that for a reason, because he had enough sense to know that would be deemed insensitive information. And it is sensitive. And I don't know if he would have told somebody else down the road eventually, and it would have gotten out to the public. I don't know. But I will agree with the lawyer. You probably should never have told that. You shouldn't have told that, because it's already heinous that he killed the wife and the kids, how he did it, how he disposed of the bodies. And then now you're repeating he could have continued on to kill other people, and then he went and killed the kids twice, make sure they were dead. That's jacked up. So now people sit here and say, well, then how the hell will I believe he's redeemed himself? He's found God. He's found Jesus. after hearing that. We want to make sure they were dead. Oh, now he misses them. He wished they were still here. He can still hear one of the children's voices after her pleading with her father. This is bad. Yeah, it's offensive. Because no matter how he killed them, they're dead. They're not coming back. And the way he disposed of them was probably more worse than how he actually killed them. Because he wanted to make sure they weren't found. That's why he took them and put them in that tank. He didn't want them found. So that should tell you what he thought of these people while they were living and after death. I don't want them. I don't want them around. I no longer want to be obligated to them. And I want to make sure they are never found. Out of sight, out of mind. That's what I've always thought when I found out where he discarded them. He wanted to make sure those people, they were never found. So I'm really surprised that he confessed.
And my attorneys advised me just to leave it alone.
Shanann's family is also arguing that you promised to send them a copy of the book before it was seen widely, an advanced copy. Is that true?
No, it's not. I asked their attorneys if they would like to have a voice in the book. I was told no, that they would not. And I understood that. It was so soon after the crime. My heart hurts for those people. So I understand anger and upset, but I told him if she didn't want to have voice in the book, that I would not be letting her read the book before. And so that's the way we left it. They never got a hold of me again.
Do you feel that you've treated Shanann's family fairly in your mind?
Well, let's talk about that. So, a voice in the book. Well, maybe that's why they wanted to see what was in the book before giving a voice. So this is like a double-edged sword that you're listening to this commentary from this lady. They want to know what's in the book. She's asking them for a voice. So, man, what did you want them to say exactly? Say what? What did you want them to say pertaining to Mr. Watts? Because as you said, it was early on after the crime. And many people do have a problem with people writing books and making movies right after a death, murder. May seem callous to some. So what is it exactly you wanted these people to say? See, this is a very edgy situation here. They don't want to say anything. Well, I ain't forwarding no copy. So that's what I'm trying to understand her side. What is it that you wanted them to say? About what exactly? Now there's a rift between the entities. And as you heard, Shanann's family's attorney, well, her attorney, excuse me, this author's attorney told her, shouldn't have said nothing about what he said about killing those kids twice. Of course. Because now that's opening up old wounds or barely healed wounds. Lord have mercy. What a mess. Do you feel like this woman is genuine in her commentary in this audio? Do you think she considered the family at all? But naturally, many would argue, why you want to write a book? Of course, a person is entitled to write whatever they want to write, so long as it's the truth. But then what is the truth? Because everything's about a version. And naturally, when you're talking about true crime, which I think that's what they were opposing, it being a true crime book, at some point, it is going to be about what they did. Because people are going to be expecting probably a little something about the crime. So you want it to be several hundred pages about him finding Jesus and how he's met God and what he's doing with his time in prison to set a tone for what he did. Is that what the family wanted? I'm confused.
Do you feel that you've treated Shanann's family fairly in your mind?
Oh, absolutely. I've done nothing to hurt them. My book is not in any way bashing Shanann or the girls. My heart hurts for these people. I have nothing in the world against them in any way. And I just hope that if I've hurt them, that they will forgive me of that, because I didn't hurt them intentionally. I wanted the truth to be told to them so that maybe they can move forward with their lives.
Thank you for being with us. You can read more of Sherilyn's conversations and letters with Chris Watson in her new book, Letters from Christopher.
Sherlyn Cato is her name.
The Watts family murders. Now, coming up, Chris claims that if he'd never met his mistress, he wouldn't have committed these murders. But where is his ex-mistress, Nicole Kessinger, today? And are there signs that Chris would kill again if given the opportunity? Stay here.
All right, brief intermission. Would he kill again? Where's the mistress? Did this lady who wrote the book, Miss Cato, was she disrespectful in her commentary? There's always going to be a complaint, because in the end, the story is about savage murder of a woman and her children, unborn child. Then there was a boy child in her womb. Very interesting, too. He killed a boy. You've already had 2 girls. And inside of the womb of the mother was a boy. Did he know there was a boy in there? Just didn't care. Man is heartless. He's heartless. And I don't think he's changed.
Previously unknown details of his horrifying crime. August 13th, morning of. I went to the girls' room first, before Shanann and I had our argument.
Okay, before,
I
okay.
went to Bella's room, then Cece's room. I used a pillow from their bed. That's why the cause of death was smothering. After I left Cece's room, then I climbed back in bed with Shanann, and our argument ensued. After Shanann had passed, Bella and Cece woke back up. I'm not sure how they woke back up, but they did.
This is so crazy. I didn't say this earlier because I didn't want to go back in to try to rewind that commentary. This man smothers the babies and don't even check to see that they're deceased. Isn't that the purpose of smothering them? Is because you're trying to kill the children? You're desiring to kill your own children. You've contemplated this the day before, because you said in these letters, I knew the day before I was going to kill them. So you get out of bed from your wife, go in to kill each child, different rooms, and they're not dead. They're not dead. This is wicked to me. So what a surprise it must have been hearing them whimpering and waking up. Oh my goodness, they're not dead. Wow, wow, wow. You can't make this stuff up. You can't make this up.
We're back with the latest on convicted killer Chris Watts. The Colorado father is serving 5 life sentences for killing his wife, unborn child, and 2 daughters. Here with the latest, our investigative reporter, Mars Gavacampo, CNN and HLN legal analyst and defense attorney, Joy Jackson, and crime correspondent, Melissa Moore. So, I appreciate you all coming. It's a sensitive topic. We have these letters. This is the first time being released to us, so we have deeper insights into what was going on in Chris Watts' mind. You've read these letters. You've heard the stories, Sherilyn's comments earlier. Mara, what do you make out of this? What stands out the most to you about his tone? And I'll pass these letters down.
Yeah,
We've all seen them.
In reading these letters, we realized that these crimes were even more horrifying than we'd initially realized. When I was reading these letters, I literally felt nauseous. And one of the most nauseating things about them is his tone, the completely matter-of-fact way that he describes committing the most awful acts that a human being can commit, completely emotionally detached. So I wanted a little bit of insight into that. So I reached out to a forensic psychiatrist, Dr. Clay Watson, and he said that these letters show typical signs of a psychopath. That psychopaths don't view people as people, they view them as objects to be manipulated. And another thing that stood out to me with the tone was the ego, the tremendous ego and arrogance of Chris Watts. And it's no surprise that he agreed to be part of a project that at least in part was supposed to be about his redemption, because Chris Watts cares about one person, Chris Watts.
I have a problem with these letters, actually, a really big problem. As I read them, I realized something similar to my father. And when I did the podcast Happy Face, it was a journey for me to find out the true narrative of what really happened with my father's crimes. Because at the end of the day, this is from Chris Watts. This is he's the one speaking for the victims. And what makes this gospel? What makes this truth? This is propaganda for his agenda. He is a narcissist. This is pushing forward what he wants to be pushed out into the world. And that's what I have a problem with.
I couldn't help but notice that he's in jail for 5 life sentences.
Right.
That's what your father's in jail for.
Same as my father, right? Right.
Do you think your dad would have hurt you the way this man hurt his family?
Well, see, that's what was interesting for me. When I was going on my journey, my grandfather, before he passed away, at the kitchen table, matter of factly told me, you know, your dad had confessed to me that he thought about killing you kids.
Oh my God.
And yeah, he said that to him. So I asked him, when did my dad say that to you? And he said it to me, actually, he was after he was arrested and when he did a prison visit with him. And my grandpa looked at me like, that's unbelievable. And so, but I thought the same too. I thought, like, how could we think about our parent being able to kill us? Like, it doesn't seem fathomable. You can't wrap your head around that. So I always had a question mark. Is that possible? Well, my father murdered 8 women. He tortured animals. And I learned that sociopaths, psychopaths, they compartmentalize things. So, you know, you're safe if you're not a threat. It's all self-driven. It's all about them. And so if I was a conflict to him, to my father, and I had to be getting rid of, I would be in the way and he would have gotten rid of me. And
that's a very good point. And that's noble of her to admit that. If there was conflict, he would have gotten rid of me. Now, you have some people who would think to themselves, oh, he wouldn't kill me. She wouldn't have killed me. The point is, if you're related to the person, they kill whomever in relation, why would you be special to not be murdered? That's what people don't seem to understand about, yes, a sociopath and a psychopath. When you have one that has murdered their family members, how in the world could you, as another relative, even a parent, say, oh, he wouldn't have done it to me. He wouldn't have killed me. Yes, he or she would have. You got in the way, you damn Skippy. You would have been collateral damage. And they're already viewing people as objects. So what would be special about you? And they might even say that down the road if it came out. Oh, you know, I would never have murdered you. You're my daughter. I love you. You're different than those women out there. You're different than your mother or whomever the person is that they chose to kill. No, you're not. And I say this for people who murdered adoptive children, foster care children. Some sick person would probably think, oh, they wouldn't kill their own biological children. Yes, they would. Evil is evil. And no way in your right mind you can think that they would differentiate. They may say that. Oh, my children were well behaved. These other children were bad. Okay, well, let's flip the script. Their children were bad. Now what? You think they would give their own children a pass? Probably not.
to him, to my father, and I had to be getting rid of, I would be in the way and he would have gotten rid of me. And there was chances for him to. He almost confessed to me the murders. And if he did, then I would have gone to the cops like he said I would have. And I wouldn't.
It was just getting dark.
Sorry about that. She said she would have gone to the police. So see, that's crazy too. If you even think a person would turn you in, why in the world would you confess to that person? That makes no sense to me. But what I've told you all so many times about criminals, they have to tell somebody. Many tell somebody of their misdeeds, their crimes. They have to tell somebody. And we've heard so many times in true crime of people coming forward telling the truth that they heard about somebody murdering somebody, or they told them in confidence. And then you're looking at them like, how in the world could you walk around holding that secret that this person murdered people or murdered their husband, wife, friend, whomever, and you carried that secret? Why? And they'll say, oh, I feared for my safety. But you can't say you fear for your safety if you're still in their peripheral. You still hung around them. You still talked to them. You were still dating them, married to them. Most people did a 360. I'm out of here.
I believe my father, absolutely. After reading these, I believe my father really, truly, that's not being over dramatic, he would have killed me.
Jerry, what do you think of, as a defense attorney, about Chris Watts participating in this book, writing these letters? I mean, just saying things, these letters that are just unfathomable, unconscionable.
Yeah, it's shameful. So there's two ways to answer it. The first way is whether or not he, has a right to do it. The second issue is whether or not he should do it. Now, obviously, everyone has a constitutional right to say what they want, right? We're in a free country. You can say, do what you want, and that's okay. But the other thing has to do with whether it makes it right, it makes it fair. Now, why should we expect anything less, right? Or anything more from a serial killer, right? Or to me, in my view, you're killing your family. That's serial enough for me.
Right.
But the fact is that it comes down to basic decency, right? I will stand up every day in a court of law. I will defend someone's rights. Thereafter, there's a day of reckoning. That reckoning comes, and it came in this case with his plea of guilty, right? Where he acknowledged his guilt. Sometimes it comes before a jury, when members of the jury say you're guilty. Thereafter, I think there's an atonement period, and I think you have to be very respectful. There's a family here that suffered a grievous loss. Unimaginable, a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, she's pregnant, he kills his wife. How could you do such a thing? What kind of human being does that? And then to come out to your point about speaking about it, like, it's you and I just having a conversation in the park. What message does that send? I think it sends the wrong message. I think it's not fair. It's not appropriate. It's not right. And I think it further condemns him. And so he's serving 5 life sentences. You know what? If he could serve more, it should be.
Let me, passion, I get it. Let me open this issue up to the whole panel. I'm still fascinated that this man did not appear to have a history. Yes, this is his story, his propaganda.
Right.
But there doesn't seem to be anybody else saying that
Exactly.
he was a bad apple before this all started. He's claiming a demon or an evil or darkness came into him. He says it in these letters. Every one of these letters, look at them. They're all, God bless you. I wish you and your family a wonderful time. I mean,
That's manipulation.
It may be.
That's
But
clearly manipulation.
what do you think of this demon idea? Your take on that? It is, in many faiths, fundamentally something they believe.
But here's what's certain. He is demonic. There's no question about that.
Yes, that's
but
true.
the idea that a demon possessed him in a temporary way and that he's now free of that and filled with the Spirit of God is really unbelievable. And the reason for that is that he doesn't seem to be remorseful.
Right.
If the Spirit of God was filling you and that demon had fled, you would be on your knees every night crying buckets of tears about your lost family. This man seems only to care about himself, his image, and his future, which he seems to think one day will involve freedom. This man is a narcissist.
I don't think there's anything to do with the supernatural, with demons. This is science. This man didn't just snap. He didn't just start ruminating right before he killed his family.
Exactly.
This is something that was percolating years before
Yes,
this.
yes.
This kind of psychopath, this kind of narcissism and grandioseness, this isn't something that he just developed. This is something that this is nurture and nature coming together. From my study of psychopaths, we learned that there is a genetic part of this.
Yes.
So I believe he was predispositioned to do this, that the motive of being with Nikki drove him to do this. What I found fascinating. Nikki the girlfriend. What's fascinating to me too is that the psychopaths aren't really, they're cookie cutters of themselves. I could basically put his name in for my dad. Like, they're the same. And then when I read the letters, my father chased after his mistress after prison. I believe part of his motive for these letters is a reach out to the mistress to come back to him and start talking to him.
Oh my
He
goodness.
talks so much about Nikki,
Yeah, I don't see this as a genetic issue. I see this as an issue that relates to him.
Well, there you have it. Difference of opinions. Genetics. Is this a genetic issue with Chris Watts? Somebody in the family, father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, passed this gene down to him. He was groomed to be a killer by family, parents. The mother, to me, is very off-putting. She's a psycho too, because I don't know how anybody could look at their child and say, I don't care what you did. And as you'll hear commentary, her praising him while he's incarcerated for murdering his family. What do you have to praise him about? He's in there, he ain't coming out. And you're basically telling him, I don't care what you did. And when they talked about the little girl visiting him, messing with the music at the church, when she's talking about them playing the music for some type of ceremony they were having out of town, it was so creepy that the little girl was messing with the radio or the record player or something. I thought, what are you saying? This man is the reason you're even talking about this. Record player skipping or whatever, the song skipping. And he's just going along with the conversation like, And I thought, hell, I can see why he's demented. His mother's crazy. Yeah, we were trying to play the song and he kept messing up. And I know that was such and such messing with the song. And he ain't saying nothing. I said, Lord, have mercy. So, do you believe this is genetic? What is wrong with him? Or he was groomed to be a killer? Which is it? Or both, a little bit of both, in his genes and groomed. But as she says here, the Happy Face Killer's daughter, I believe he's always had something wrong with him. And I'm kind of leaning towards that. You didn't see obvious signs. Maybe some of the people in his life, courtships, neighbors, didn't see overt violence. But it had been brewing before Nikki ever came into the picture. Because you just don't wake up and kill people because you are having sex with somebody else. People have sex with other people all the time. They don't kill their families. And as I told you before, if he could have gotten away with this, there is no rule in the book that says it would have worked out with that lady. Because as I said, she would have had expectations of Chris. He would have had expectations of her. And if he was so highly perturbed or scared of disappointing Shanann, he would have felt the same about this one. This holier than thou girl he's so obsessed with. He would have been feeling the same. Oh, I definitely don't want to let her down. He would have definitely went psycho. And he would have started repeating stuff. You're acting just like my first wife. You're saying the same stuff my first wife said. He definitely would have popped the lid. Are you all hearing me? God forbid, like I said, he gotten away with it. Built a life with this lady. There would have been trouble in paradise. Nobody could make me believe different.
I don't see this as a genetic issue. I see this as an issue that relates to him and his way out. The fact is that I think this is something he was very self-interested. He wanted a way out.
Yes,
you can blame
I believe that too.
Demons,
he wanted a way out.
On spirits, and the hardest thing to blame is on yourself, and that's what I think he overlooks. The fact is that he made a conscious choice. We all make conscious choices every day. That conscious choice was to get rid of his pregnant wife, was to, completely, and I think everyone here who has children, we would die for our kids every day and twice on Sunday. Not him. What does he do? He decides, because he wants to gallivant and do whatever he's doing, that he has to get rid of them, and therefore he kills them. So I don't see demons, I don't see spirits, I don't see witches. I see an individual who wanted a way out. This is the way he took, and as a result, that's why he's serving 5 life sentences.
All right. Did he want a way out, Chris Watts? Difference of opinions. I think he wanted a way out myself. He may have wanted a way out long before losing the weight, long before meeting this young lady. Because if you have people who are telling you, we didn't see any signs of violence, never heard of them having any problems, violent behavior against his family, then how in the world would you know his mindset before meeting Nikki? Because you don't know. She's just an easier scapegoat from the public and his own mouth. But I do believe things were brewing way before he met her. That he had some identity issues, insecurities within himself. And you've heard that from people who lose weight. They still see the same fat person in the mirror after losing the weight. He possibly had issues before he met Shanann. Stay woke. I agree with this gentleman here. He wanted out. I think he got in over his head in this marriage. He thought he wanted this family life, this dynamic. But once he got got his feet wet, it wasn't for him. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's the whole point of life. You don't really know what's going to happen in meeting people, having children, playing house, until you do it. And maybe he realized it's too much for me, too many responsibilities. There are a lot of ugly things said about the wife, her spending habits and this and that. That's no reason to kill somebody, because if that's the case, it's no different than you believing he killed the family for this woman because he got tangled up with her and was in love with her or lusting or whatever. There is no logical reason to kill your family. You're not getting along with your wife. She's got high expectations. She's got a spending habit. That is no reason to murder somebody. You deal with it. That's why you set ground rules in the beginning. This is what I'm not going to deal with. This is what I'm not going to tolerate. This is how I want to live. That's why you get on an even slope. You try to get even with the person that you're dealing with. And when you see that you all are starting to bump heads, then you try to deal with the situation. You don't let it exacerbate. I think that's what happened here. It got way out of control, whatever was going on in their relationship. And it just so happened he's lost weight. He's getting attention. He's feeling himself. He looks at this lady. She looks at him, however it went. And one thing begat another. But as this man said, he was in control of his own emotions. He was the captain of his ship. He didn't have to go down that road. I believe he wanted out too. I believe he's been wanting out. I've always thought that about Chris Watts.
Result, that's why he's serving 5 life sentences.
Coming up, we're revealing the shocking way Chris Watts thinks he'll end up freed from prison someday.
Will he be freed from prison? What makes him think that he will be free? You kill too many people. We've learned this in this great country. The more people you slaughter, you're not coming out of there. Now, the case with one of the Manson crews, she's free, older woman. Luck of the draw. Luck of the draw. And I think they only did it because she was young at the time. But Chris Watts was old enough to know better. And some will still say even that lady, she should have known better. Do you think he will get free? And what would make him even think that a parole board would free him? Very interesting information. Very scary to even think of that. Him walking free again.
Viciously murdered his pregnant wife Shanann and their young daughters Bella and Cece. Chris pled guilty to multiple counts of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole.
This is perhaps the most inhumane and vicious crime that I have handled out of the thousands of cases that I have seen.
We're back trying to understand the mind of convicted killer Chris Watts, who's serving 5 life sentences for brutally murdering his wife, unborn son, and 2 daughters. In his conversations with author Sherilyn Cato, Watts said he's convinced that if he's well behaved in prison, he'll be freed on good behavior in 25 years. So, Joy, put your legal hat on.
That's what we call delusion, okay? The fact is he's going nowhere, all right? If he get with good behavior, part of what we do in our system when we sentence people, there's 3 real prongs to it, very briefly. One is punishment, one is deterrence, right? You want to punish people for what they did, you want to deter their conduct and others' conduct. The other is rehabilitation. So I ask you, a person who would engage in this type of behavior, what measure of rehabilitation do they have in them? Would anyone here feel safe and comfortable if he lived next door to you in the same village, town, in the same state as you did? No one would feel safe. And so I don't see any path for him, absent a pardon by the governor, for him to be out of jail. And that pardon is not happening anytime soon.
So, for that, he's considering appealing. Maybe he confessed because he was out of his mind that day.
Okay. So here's the process very simply. When you are pleading guilty, a judge asks you questions, right? We call it in law an allocution. And in allocution, they say, Dr. Oz, have you had any drugs or intoxicants today? No. Are you a user of any drugs, intoxicants? Yes. When? At what point? You say whatever it is. Is there any time or anything today that's impairing your judgment? No, there's not. Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty? Yes. Do you recognize you committed this crime? Right. Do you know you're giving away certain rights? In other words, they question you chapter and verse. Tell me what you you did. Tell me how you did it. Tell me who you did it to. So now I'm going to come back to the court and say, Judge, none of it was right. I lied. I was under intoxicants. And so he's not getting his plea back. And even if he did, what does that get you? It gets you a new trial. And what jury, having heard all the evidence and information, if he gets that new trial, is going to say, you know what, you're not guilty, you go home. It's not going to happen.
You convinced me. So let me go back to the theme of his mistress Nicole. So one thing that I was sort of taking away from this is that he would never have killed his family, he says, if it wasn't for his love for her. And apparently, allegedly, she said something, the mistress, that she wanted to bear his son. And Shanann, his wife, who he murdered,
exactly,
was pregnant with
what
his
a
son.
boy.
I want to understand more about this relationship. Mara, do you know where Nicole is?
Yeah, we don't know where Nicole is right now. What we do know is that she fully cooperated with authorities, and there are reports that she's in the witness protection program. So she is presumably starting a new life with a new identity, but she really seems to be very concerned about what that new life looks like, because she reportedly told investigators she had been Googling information about Amber Fry. Do you remember Amber Fry?
Yes.
This was Scott Peterson's mistress. She was caught up in Lacey Peterson's murder case. And so this woman is presumably looking at Amber Fry to see what her life will look like 10, 15 years down the line. But what's really interesting about their relationship, they were only together for a few months. And this man is describing her as his soulmate. She's the motive for killing his entire family. But clearly, when you look at the narcissism of this man, it was still all about him. What did she reflect that he wanted to see in himself?
Melissa, do you think that he would have murdered Nicole?
It's very possible. Yeah, very possible. That's just classic, the discard of a narcissist.
All right. Would he have killed her? I do believe so. Because as I said, everybody has expectations of another person. And if you could easily throw your wife and kids to the wayside in a tank because you like this person in lust, love, whatever, why wouldn't you go down that road again? Because you're already showing that's in you. Who thinks of murdering their family because they have emotions for another human being? As you hear, they weren't even together that long. And you're just going to kill your family? So if you can do it once, you can do it twice. And you're a fool to think you would be exempt. Because he married this woman, he procreated children. And the fact that they're saying she wanted a boy child with him, and he already had one in his wife's womb, this is crazy to me. And didn't care about that baby boy. That's the point. Because he didn't care about anybody. He didn't care about himself to even preserve his own life. No way.
Of a narcissist, if she's no longer useful and finds another mistress, another woman, she's out of the picture and possibly dead. But I think with Nikki, what's interesting is my mind goes to, I wonder what she's thinking.
Yes.
I wonder what she's thinking, knowing that the man she was with murdered his family. And she has to think, he could have done
that to me. Exactly.
And I think that's why she was actually Googling Amber Fry too, is to see a lot of people were angry with Amber for being a mistress. So do I think she's fabulous for being the other woman? No. But I don't think she knew that he was capable of this at all. And I think she is getting another take at life and afraid probably to come forward because people might assume she knew about this.
Understand.
Well, did she know that he was married, had children? Did Nikki know this? Now, this Googling Amber Fry, well, I'm not going to touch that. But the witness protection program, is she in the witness protection program? Because everybody knows what she looks like. And no matter how much you try to alter your appearance, cut your hair, wear a different hairstyle, different hair color, you still can carry the same features naturally because that's your face, unless you get your face altered. So where is she? What does she do for a living? Is she the type that she could cut off all friends and family? Because naturally, they're going to tell you, once we give you a new name, new location, you can't contact anyone from your past. So can she give up friendships, courtships? Or did she have a life to where she really didn't have any friends or family? So it would be easy to go into the witness protection program. Or should she just deal with it? She met a man who's crazy. One thing begat another. He killed his family, allegedly in her name, and he was caught. Does she miss him? Does she want to talk to him? Does he miss her? Does he want to talk to her? Is she afraid to try to contact him because she's worried about what people will think of her? Has she moved on from Chris Watts? Does she have any regrets dating him? Did she see signs that he wasn't right mentally? And as I said before, did she know that he was a married man with children? And did she also know that he was contemplating killing his family? I pray that it's not yes and yes to any of the questions I just asked, because that means she's just as sick as Chris Watts, if true.
Assume she knew about this.
Understandably.
Yeah.
You guys have been wonderful. Thanks for opening our eyes to so many opportunities to learn from this terrible case. We'll be right back.
Yeah, that's Dr. O, everybody. Letters written by Mr. Watts to this Miss Cagle. Oh, Lordy.
Each letter from convicted murderer Chris Watts to author Sherilyn Cagle. Chris writes, I can say with a certainty that I always loved Shanann and always will. But there was always this lingering fear that I would do something wrong. It broke me down spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. Was I aware of it? I don't think so. It's like the frog that was put in a pot full of water, and slowly the water turned to a boil, and the frog boiled to death. I didn't see what was happening until it was too late, and that mistake cost me the chance to grow old with my family for the rest of my physical life. Those are the words of convicted killer Chris Watts, a man who claims he'll always love his wife, and yet he killed her, their unborn son, and their 2 young daughters. To help shed more light on this unfathomable crime is criminologist Dr. Casey Jordan. Chris always feared that he would do something terribly wrong, and then he uses this metaphor of a boiling frog.
Which is so ironic because the frog boiling slowly is a metaphor we use usually in victimology and criminology to explain the psychology of a domestic violence victim or somebody who is being abused by their spouse. And that's completely not the situation with Chris. That whole idea that you acclimate to a situation over time. But based on these letters, Chris Watts was actually stewing in this plan for many months. And when he met Nicole, and he says, if I'd never met Nikki, this never would have happened. Basically, what he's saying is that he had planned it all along and that she uncorked his lust. So that metaphor of a frog boiling slowly doesn't fit him.
So when I've looked into his story, and you're spending a lot of time on this, I don't find any evidence of violence, any evidence that would have tipped me off that he could have done. If you don't live.
All right, everybody. Well, maybe he felt victimized by his wife. So many people were so nasty about her spending. Did he feel victimized by her? Did she not talk to him the way he wanted to be talked to? Did she raise her voice? Because I believe he was a mild-mannered individual, still is. Because when a person says, I felt like I was going to do something wrong, I'm trying to figure out, what do you mean by wrong? Wrong in the marriage, make the wrong mistake, do, not something just nefarious, but just do something not pleasing to the spouse. Well, eventually he did do something terribly wrong, which was kill her and her kids. That leads me to believe that maybe in his mind he felt like he maybe was a victim. He was victimized by his wife, his family. It's something there. So that's why I said they don't always tell you everything. Did he feel victimized by his wife? I wonder. Couldn't please her. Hard to please. Was she a hard person to please? But as I said, there's still no reason to kill your spouse. Because everybody's different. Some people are highly critical, even sometimes radical in their thinking of how to raise children, rear children, how they want to live. Get upset if you don't dance by their music. Crybabies, scream queens, whatever you want to call them. But that's not a reason to murder them. That's when you have to take a good look at yourself and say, well, I'm on a different path.
we always look for signs of violence after the fact, a kind of Monday morning quarterbacking. And a lot of people always say there have to be signs. And we think of serial killers, and that trifecta, torturing animals and bedwetting and fire setting. And none of that existed for him because his psychology is actually nothing like a serial killer.
It's not.
I don't think so. And we always go around later when we have these men who kill their entire families, or women. They're really mass murderers. We call them family annihilators. And what they're really trying to do is clear the slate of this family so that they can start over anew. And that is exactly what Chris admits in these letters. He met Nikki. He became almost intoxicated with this new life he had with her, which means the sex he was having with her on the side, cheating on his wife. He loved it. He was like a teen. We call this situational regression. He's on fire. He's full of lust. And he's thinking, if I can just get rid of my family, I can be with her.
Turn the clock back.
Yeah.
The person I wanted to be.
Exactly. Like he was like a teenager or somebody in their 20s who was in love for the first time.
So Sherlyn Cato says that Chris claimed he may have been possessed by a demon. Those are his words. You argue this is just an effort to control how he's perceived.
Correct. I call this impression management. I mean, he talks about a dark side must have taken over him, and he calls it a demon. But we're not talking about an actual demon, like an exorcisable demon. We're just talking about his conscience. He had to be using impression management to think that he wouldn't be the first suspect. And now he scapegoats onto a demon.
So Dr. Jordan says a 10-minute college presentation about relationship deterioration. That's the topic, relationship deterioration. It was in a communications class. Chris Watts posted this online 7 years ago. And Dr. Jordan thinks it'll help illuminate more about it. Take a look at two of the things that Watts said his research uncovered on the subject of relationships ending.
Sometimes when you have children and your relationship starts to deteriorate, a child could help repair it. Sometimes people, when the relationship starts to dissolve, repair is not an option, and they want to get away and start new.
Get away and start anew. What does this video tell you about Watts?
He prepared this video for a college class, and this was 6 months before he married Shanann. He was already doing relationship dissolution research. And to me, this is really, I don't know that he ever really loved her. I think that he was just doing what society and his family and Shanann expected, and he felt like he was on a runaway train. So he ended up in this marriage. But then once he was in it, he experienced this transformation. I mean, compare that image of him, Chris Watts, there. He's awkward. He's a little stilted in his presentation. He's overweight. And then we see him after Shanann's gone missing. Muscular, really manly man, and he's lost weight, and he's got his goatee, and he's a stud boy. And I really think that transformation made him think, I can kill my wife and children, and I can be with Nicole. And then he couldn't see 30 seconds beyond that decision.
Wow.
Dr. Jordan, profound insights. Thank you very much.
Great to be here.
We'll be right back.
So, what do you all think? It's the girl, Nikki. She drove him to do this. Or there was always something wrong with Chris Watts, and it just didn't boil over until he met her. She was the reason for the season.
Convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein was found dead.
Okay, let's talk about Epstein. Very interesting information. 39 viewing, thank you so much. Hippie, you never answered my question. What is your issue with the lady who wrote the book? Is there something about her you don't like, her presentation? Well, that's the end of the commentary, the audio. Please check my community board for the said information. I'm going to go ahead and read the results from the polls that I put up earlier. Thank you all so much for joining me. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $Big Angie, 129 Cash App. Stickers and chats are always welcome during the live stream. Thank you all so much for tuning in. It is now Monday. Let's see what I have. Is Chris Watts innately evil? 81% says yes. 11% says no. 8% not sure. Wow, interesting. If Chris hadn't had an affair, do you think he would have killed his family? 28% says yes. 63% says no. 9% not sure. So a majority of you is 63% believes had he not met Nicole, he would not have killed his family. Very interesting. Well, on my community board, I've got other posts posted pertaining to Amanda Knox. The judicial system overseas is trying to retry her. So crazy. For slander. Should they be trying to retry her? News Nation says you're not supposed to be tried twice. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with those people over there. But I did ask you all a question about Miss Knox. I said, did Amanda Knox and former boyfriend kill her roommate? 38% of you said yes. 26% says no. 8% someone else. 13% one of them. 15% not sure. Okay. Very interesting. There's always something going on. Well, that's my commentary pertaining to Chris Watts. As I said, I felt like, as this gentleman said in his commentary, that he wanted out, and he probably had been thinking about getting out of his marriage for some time, even before he lost the weight. And one thing we've learned about situations, that sometimes it takes one little thing to push people over. It's kind of like when people pop off and they go on the rampage, the shootings. They don't just wake up one day and shoot the people at the grocery store, or their job, or the schoolhouse. It's an escalation. And I believe that's what happened with Chris Watts. I believe he has never felt good about himself. He probably was reliving his youth, because now he's just, at that time, he was youthful looking. He was muscular. He was getting attention. Here's somebody else liking him, don't have a problem with him. But that's usually how it starts out. People are enamored with you in the beginning, but once they start to get to know you and your ways start, what's the word I'm looking for? Clashing, your ways, their ways. Now they're not so enthused with you, and vice versa. And as this lady here says, sex is hot. Sex was probably great. It's a different person. She looks different, sounds different, talks different, smells different. He's enamored. She's enamored. But that's not realistic, because this lady never lived with him. She hasn't played house with him. She didn't have children with him, vice versa. So naturally, things starting out would be great because there are no obligations. He isn't paying rent at her house, paying her mortgage, paying bills, splitting bills. That's when you learn what you can tolerate with a person, when you do play house and when you become obligated to that person and their needs and their desires. Their relationship 9 times out of 10 was physical. They probably saw each other. He was attracted to her. She was attracted to him. One thing led to another. They're only secretly meeting and texting, but it's not a real relationship because they're not sharing obligations. And like this man said, he wanted a way out. That's his opinion. And I do believe Chris wanted a way out a long time ago. It just got the jump off when he met that lady. I do not know if she has any dealings in what he plotted. If he ever told her that he wanted to kill his family, she'd have been a fool to stay for the ride, because that's a burden I would not want to carry, is knowing this man was going to kill his family. Because once again, as it was said in this audio by the smiley face killer's daughter, why would I be exempt? Exactly. He can kill his family. He could kill me as well. I can't sit here and think I'm all gravy. I'm better than his wife. Oh, no, he wouldn't kill me. Of course he would. And you also hear in this commentary, he would have killed anything in sight after murdering his family, which I find very disturbing. Besides the actual murders of the family, the fact that he was still in a murderous rage after killing him, that shows he was jacked up anyway. Really wasn't about that girl, that lady. Because as I said, he should have found some relief after killing his family. So to say he could still go on and kill somebody else, anything that got in his path, means he's been holding that in, that rage, for some time. She's just an icing on the cake, Nicole. But there was always something wrong with Chris Watts. He just didn't act out. Didn't show people what he felt. Didn't jump off, didn't holler, didn't scream, didn't moan. But he did on that fateful morning. Because he's been wanting a way out. and he finally got the revenge that he wanted. I think he felt ostracized. He felt uncomfortable. He felt possibly unloved, unappreciated, still feeling like the heavier guy. You know, he wasn't severely overweight, but he probably felt like that most of his life, depending on how long he had the weight on him. He finally got it off, but he's still looking in the mirror at that guy that doesn't feel worthy. The guy that's not appreciated. The guy that's not meshing with his children and his wife. Voila, he meets this young lady, and the rest is history. Where is Miss Nicole? Does she have any regrets in dating him? Did she see any signs that he was not mentally stable? Did he confess to her any improprieties about trying to kill his wife, plans to kill his wife and kids? Did she aid in any fashion? Because we don't see her on any video near the home. Well, I read some comments on the video that says something about a phone ping, but I believe she would have been arrested if the police thought in any way that she was involved. But how does she feel now, knowing he's locked up? And does he really think he's going to get out of prison? And just imagine that being on her mind, him getting out. Does she miss him? Does he miss her? Has she tried reaching out to him? Has he tried to reach out to her? And why are women writing him letters, men and women? What is the point? This was a comment I saw earlier. As someone with autism, it infuriates me that Chris Watts claimed to have it himself. He's not autistic. He just comes from a dysfunctional family where you're not allowed to express your emotions. And he has a mom who probably controlled every aspect of his life until the day he left home. He was a mama's boy. And if you watch some of the jailhouse calls between Chris and his mom, she's constantly putting praise onto him, making him believe that he did nothing wrong, etc. She actually talks to him like he's a 5-year-old, not a grown man who used to have a wife and kids. I noticed that she seems to control Chris's dad too. And I also responded under that comment. I agreed, yes. Because she takes no responsibility in how she reared this young man. And obviously he has her ways because he's empty, stoic, as you hear this lady who wrote the book, who talks to him face to face. That's the mother. See, he probably wanted what was done to him. He probably was controlled as a child growing up, as this person is saying in this commentary. He didn't have any control. He didn't have an opinion. And usually when you get older and you're grown, that's what you're striving to have, is what you didn't get as a child. If you weren't valued as a person, you weren't allowed to talk, your opinions didn't matter, you were possibly mistreated, or you had a tyrant family, you longed to be able to have a voice when you were grown. But I won't doubt that he met this girl, Shanann, and perhaps she was a little more boisterous, a little more controlling, and he realized, I'm going back into the cycle of childhood again. And he didn't make a way for himself to be more vocal. That's his fault. You have something you want to say to somebody, then you say it. You have every right to say it. You don't like something they're doing or saying, that's your right to say something. That's why you don't hold those feelings in. Because I do believe that's what led to this, the murders of this family. He felt some type of way towards her and those kids. They became public enemy number one. Jones says Chris Watts was not in love. He was in lust. He didn't know the difference. Somebody believes that Nicole knew of the crime. I think it's crazy. She was never investigated further. They basically say, I will never believe Nicole didn't know. Okay. It's very good that this case does not get forgotten. Nicole Kessinger needs to be investigated in depth. She knows more than she admits. Let's see what the 5 replies are. Amen. She's too clever for that. Somebody else says she's in deep. Her phone records and Google searches and their timing are very damning, but her father has connections. Somebody says definitely. Somebody else says I agree. I didn't know anything about that. 6685 says, people keep saying he was a great dad, yet worked all day, went out for a run and trained in his basement. Where do you get time to be a great dad? Was so self-obsessed. He always made sure he popped into Shanann's work videos to make people think he was a great husband and father. No, he's a monster. 3 replies. The only time we've ever seen him being a good father playing with the kids is when Shanann was filming and chaperoning. It's well known that he wasn't really allowed to spend much time alone with them. Their mom was always there and they would scream for her if she even went out on the porch. That unusual work trip that last weekend while he spent back-to-back nights with his lover and lied about attending a game, that's what he thought of his wife and kids, and then he murders them. Interesting. Yes, he was a fake as fake can be, and he had all of his friends fooled too. Laugh out loud. He would pop in. I like that show his face. I like that he showed his face. Well, some people judge that as well, that she filmed too much. Going to Facebook, talking, and a lot of people are like that. They like to talk about everything on Facebook, show what they're cooking, show where they've been, talk about what happened today at work, at play, who they're upset with. That's why I keep telling people it's very dangerous to use social media all the time. Sometimes it's best to just hold something to the vest and not speak of anything. And it's not to speak ill of the dead, but I did notice in watching a documentary on Netflix, she did post a lot and she took a lot of pictures of herself and the kids. And who's to say that maybe he felt some type of way about that? Because a lot of people don't really like all of that, going to Facebook and taking pictures and filming yourself. Some people don't care for that. And I'm wondering if he actually liked the filming or not. I'm just curious. Nikki backed him in everything. She knew, she knows. She needs to be in prison. She gave Chris the balls and the nerve and made him choose. Okay. Chris was a fake his whole life until this awful day. 1 reply. Somebody said Shannon was not Chris. Okay. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. She wanted the truth to be told to Shannon's family was her primary reason and motivation for writing this book. It had nothing to do with making a ton of money. That's why, in my opinion, she refused to give them an advance copy unless they agreed to contribute to the book so she can make even more money. This woman is taking us all for a bunch of morons, an insult to our intelligence. This investigative journalist is disgusting. Just know we know. Okay? Wow. Another person has said, that author is a liar. She told her mother if she didn't make a statement in the book, they wouldn't get an early copy. Question mark 3 times, exclamation point. Wow, holding the book hostage from her parents? Terrible woman. I would never support her book. What the F? Okay. A lot of nasty comments. He wasn't possessed by a demon. He was possessed by his evil mother with some encouragement from his mistress. But at the end of the day, he did the most horrific things to his family to rid himself of them because he had a mistress that he would rather have sex with. It's down to that. Just sex. So was this about sex then? He just killed his wife so he could have sex. Come on. You could have sex with anybody and still be married. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion. Very interesting. I believe his mother's attitude towards Shanann was part of what drove him. Cindy Watts was full of vitriol that tainted everything. He was like the golden boy who could do no wrong, yet they couldn't be bothered to even go to their son's wedding. In my opinion, that speaks volumes. Cindy Watts is also a narcissist. Then somebody else replies, well put. I believe the control and the narcissistic actions of his mother and his mistress are what drove him to do this. Well, in the end, he was the captain of his ship. But as I said, I believe it was probably a combination of lots of things. When you watch that documentary on Netflix, you could see that there were problems with the family dynamic. Whatever issues were going on about the peanuts, her giving the kids peanuts, they broke out. Maybe she's still holding a grudge with his parents not adhering to her wishes. His mother probably had issues with Shanann, feeling like she felt like she was incompetent to keep the children. See, things boil. As he's talking about a boiling frog, Possibly it was. Possibly he felt like a boiling frog. I can't do anything right. I've got this wife that's unhappy. I got a wife unhappy with my parents. I love my parents. My parents now have a problem with her. See, one thing begets another. And like I said, these are no excuses to murder anyone, murder people. That's why I said there was already something wrong with him. Because people fall out with each other for mundane things every day. Parents not getting along with in-laws and daughter-in-laws, son-in-laws, but you don't plot to kill them. You don't aid a child to kill them. And you especially don't defend them after they've confessed to murdering their family. Who does that? Just like hearing the father in the interrogation room, like, oh my God. Yeah, he's stunned. His son just admitted killing his family. There's way more to it than just that lady. I refuse to believe it's just about Nicole. Because let's go there. If he murdered his family just because he wanted to have sex, he's even crazier than we thought. I still believe it was more. He wanted out. This was his way out. Because as I said, people have sex with other people all the time outside of their relationships, and they don't murder their babies' mothers, wives. They either continue the lie with the other person, or the truth comes out and they still continue their affair, or the other person decides to leave, file for divorce, but nobody's murdering anybody. I think it was possibly a combination of a lot of things in his life. Inadequacy. And many people do feel inadequate, but they don't contemplate murder either. They deal with it. And I think that's what happened in this relationship. He didn't deal with his own issues with himself, who he was and how he felt about himself. Because I got a feeling he was inadequate before he met Shanann. And now you coupling her issues, her wants, her needs, her expectations. And it possibly was too much for a person who didn't have a voice and didn't know how to speak up for himself. And you can see that in the text messages where she's pleading with him to talk to her. She's asking him what's wrong. She feels like there's something wrong. And he's steady baiting her. Oh, everything's fine. Everything's okay. And at this point, he's sleeping with the other woman. Never once saying, I need to talk to you. Hey, we've got problems. Hey, I'm unhappy. Hey, I'm in love with somebody else. I'm lusting behind somebody else. I'm having sex with somebody else. I want to be with this somebody else. Never, never, never. Took the coward's way out. That's a coward's way out, to murder somebody just so you can be with somebody else. And I'm telling you, if he had gotten away with it, he would have never been happy with that lady, and she would have been happy with him. Because he would have been still the same Chris Watts. Going to put up some polls pertaining to this lady, Nicole. Feel free to take the poll. Comment below the post. Please take the other polls I've posted pertaining to Amanda Knox. I will be back later this week with more stimulating content and commentary. If I don't discuss a certain subject matter, I will just put an update on the community page pertaining to that said story. And prayers to the family of the young lady in Florida who jumped off a bridge and also murdered two of her children. They were found deceased in that house. And it has also been said in commentary that the children went to a special needs school. It's a very diabolical story. I don't know if I wanted to talk about that subject matter or not, because I'm kind of overwhelmed lately talking about true crime stories. But that story kind of bothered me the past couple of days, because it was like, why would this woman kill her children and kill herself? And possibly she was struggling financially. Maybe she didn't have a lot of help. I don't know whether the children's father is, or both children have the same father. What was going on in her head? Why would she take her life? Why would she kill her kids and then kill herself? Lord have mercy. What a terrible story. Thank you all so much for following this network. Check the community board for said scary movies. Every day I'm trying to post a scary movie suggestion for your enjoyment. Instead of just putting up one post a week, every day I'm posting a scary movie up until October 31st. You all have a wonderful week. I will be back, as I said, with more content. You have been listening to The Vault XL.